Hello everyone, Mike Levin here, Friday, August 11th, 2017, around 8:30 a.m. and I'm already here, making my way to the office. I guess no Empire State Building visible, and not in t-shirt today. Interestingly enough, it's reverse casual day, I suppose. I get some questions from time to time about SEO, search engine optimization. I got some interesting followers out there. I'm sure some are just like family members and stuff that watch me on YouTube, but with about an average of 50 views per video, it's probably mostly the same people and a few people discovering me by topic. And I am a search engine optimizer in New York City, and I help companies get their content that's been published on the web or other places on the internet found through Google and the other various search and navigation tools that exist to find your way around the web. And then of course there's the fact that humans are creatures of habit, and eventually you're going to have a handful of sites and things that you do that you always go to and you always do. You know, your YouTubes and your Amazons, you know, your mega sites that provide some critical function in your life that probably has replaced something else you do, like your Costco runs in the case of Amazon Prime subscribers, going to the movies in the case of Amazon Prime subscribers, going out to visit people in person versus free phone calls and video calls and other things, that all the various contenders for being your primary go-to point online. It's not even online anymore. They used to call it digital marketing, online marketing. It's just marketing. Same with all these other things we do in life. So things competing for online attention are just competing for your attention. Amazon is just trying to fill the role of that Costco or Walmart, taking out the rigmarole of the drive and the parking and the transportation of stuff to your house or apartment. Sorry about the audio, I'm taking the tourist route again this morning. Maybe I'll turn off for better audio, but you never can tell because of all the construction and cement trucks. So, in the field of search engine optimization, which the term of which is always in question too, because what is it we're doing? Optimizing search engines? Well, it turns out to actually be close to the truth. It's just a second degree result of what we do. We help people optimize their published content to publish in such a way so that if you publish, you will have audience. If you build it, they will come. That's the goal of search engine optimization, based on the premise that all these navigational devices of the web, like Google search, make at least some attempt to meritoriously reward that content that should be rewarded by human attention, human eyeballs, the arbitrage of traffic, such as these wayfinders of the internet are. Back in the day it was Yahoo. And in the battle between human organized and machine, I'm tempted to say organized, but it wasn't really that organized in Google. It was just fast lookups against massive indexes that sort of avoided the task of organizing, but yet was still superior based on the vast and ever-growing quantities of content being vomited onto the internet. And once people in my profession, not even my profession, once people realized, it's what caused and created my profession, that if you publish with better technical kung fu, better keyword research, better publishing systems and tools, they will come automatically. And if you publish by the thousands, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of pages, they will come automatically by the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of visitors. And many a network was created on demand this way. And it was a valid play. There's no saying that there's anything inherently evil about it. It's just that any system that can be exploited will be exploited, and the loopholes will eventually be noticed and closed. And in this feedback cycle of these web navigation and traffic arbitrage and audience dissemination systems, there is lots and lots and lots of money to be made with the old school advertising model that goes, we will make the investment of putting out quality content, TV programming, and quality does happen. I was stunned with, what was it, NBC, I forget which broadcast network, but one of the broadcast networks produced Person of Interest. What's on this telephone pole? Let's see. Person of Interest. It has made me look around and take notice of things on telephone poles and streetlight poles more carefully, because it's the perfect place to put network nodes. Anyway, even the broadcast networks can produce such good quality that it will attract advertisers for its first run on the air. And people who subscribe to whatever Hulu or premium streaming service that carries the broadcast stuff get to watch it then, with advertisements inserted very close to the old TV model. And then it gets recycled again in subscription models where the cost is paid for by everyone's, I guess, aggregate subscription fees, and it has a second round of life and revenue generating. But that isn't, and that has its own search. That's like search inside Netflix, a whole nother world. There's search inside eBay. There's all these sub-search worlds. So it's not just a Google game anymore. If you want to search for pictures, you can just as well go to the Instagram app, which, because of all that keyword tagging and unique web search invisible content, you'll get a different selection of pictures than, say, from Google Images. So there's different advantages. If you're shopping, of course, searching on Amazon is different from searching on Google. But the point there is that the people who control the search are the new media companies. They're the new broadcast networks like ABC, NBC, and CBS were in their day, but for a new age. They control all these home pages that are there when the machine boots up. Control of the machine that's booting up. So again, you see Amazon knitting together all these pieces. Control of the hardware that you're using. So Amazon has all these different hardware things that fit into your life in different ways. Where you don't want cameras and screens, you use that puck, the Amazon Echo Dot. For where you want a screen, they have this new, what it looks to be a video teleconferencing phone now. So, I know since Apple really worked out Skype before it to some degree, but Apple really worked out video phone calls with FaceTime. But it's on our phones, it's on our tablets, it's on these handheld devices, or our Macs, which have to be on. And it's not just a phone sitting there on your bureau or whatever, ready to do video phone calls like the Vision in Sci-Fi and the Jetsons and stuff. But Amazon has that now. Check the way that piece of hardware fits into your life. So time and time again, there's a battle over control of the hardware and the homepage startup, and then of course the experience therein. But the only thing that is 100% assured exposure is that startup screen, which is why Microsoft over the years had kept leveraging that to make Internet Explorer the primary browser and Bing the primary search engine, but to no avail. And then they got into controlling the hardware through the Microsoft Surface, and that's the new battle, because that gets you your first chance to predispose your media consuming public to your media, your hard goods ecosystem. It's all the things of life, really, that the broadcast network combined together with the General Electrics and Westinghouses of the world brought to you you know, back in the 50s and up through really when cable television came on the scene with its 40 channels. And now you had fragmentation of media for those who could afford it. And then digital came along, and the channels went from 40 to 400. And then the internet, or at the same time the internet came along, with streaming and point to point. And now there is probably more potential video streams that you could tune into in the world than there are people in the world, right? About 7 or 8 billion people in the world, and if each one tuned into a different YouTube video, probably no one would see the same video twice. There wouldn't have to be duplicates. I'm not sure what the total number of videos uploaded to YouTube, but surely with the low barrier of entry of producing media, it's creating challenges for companies who are in that advertising-driven revenue, because they're now in competition with like the whole entire world. And I work for those types of companies, trying to make their content more competitive so that more traffic is arbitraged towards us, so that more ad revenue is produced, so that everyone gets their paychecks. There used to be a handful of tricks that really used to allow you to do this, and they still work, and it's always a raging debate as to how much they still work, how much on-page optimization still works, whether you can build links to yourself from sites you already own and control and make a difference, because you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. You need to borrow from someone else's link equity account to add to you, and that's how people worked under the old PageRank model. Google used to give the PageRank number per page through an API, and that's yet another one of the data sources that they shut off to SEOs, like they did with keyword volumes, search volumes in AdWords through the AdWords API, and like they did through keywords being handed to you in your weblogs through not provided. So there's this progressive process of Google shutting this data source off, this data source off, this data source off, but then giving it back to you in the form of, say, information you can download through Google Search Console, previously Webmaster Tools or Webmaster Central. In fact, the forums are still called Webmaster Central. So the rebranding to Google Search Console is not yet complete, but this is whitewashed data. This is summarized in aggregate, and you never have the granular data that you once had before Google shut off all these data sources. So you could tool up around it with, you know, I guess what today would be called business intelligence, BI processes, to auto-optimize a site, to help with that spitting out hundreds of thousands of pages and such. And in fact, I helped people do some variation of that through the manual process, so long as it's funneled through human beings who are thinking and writing intelligently, taking this business intelligence and crafting it into a well articulated response, just as if your website was working as a content suggestion box. So people are always trying to tell you what you should be talking about, what you should be doing more of, based on how they searched, where they found you, how determined they were to find you, how many pages into search, who the competitors were around you. And when you look at that and you read all that information and you apply certain algorithms and maybe check against other data sources, doing all that stuff you would traditionally do with a relational database with all kinds of SQL queries and joins and unions and filters, and you do that from all different data sources. And it doesn't even have to live in your own database. You just pull it in to pandas under Python, and you can treat it as if it were SQL. You might need a lot of memory to do this. That's the one downside here. And I'm actually looking at getting a beefed up local machine for data center style machine learning projects, so that I don't have to use Amazon Lambda. I want to know how to do this stuff the old school way on your own hardware. That's always going to be a recurring theme in my videos. You can always use other people's services, platforms as a service, infrastructure as a service, to speed up your development cycles, to help you scale. But there's something to be said knowing how to wire this stuff up in front of you with the physical component parts. That's SEO, and that's SEO, as is Python programming, and as is some general system admin work, which I'm deeply engaged in now. Pulling Circus D out of the process, getting the process started directly with System D, around which there's a controversy, versus the old Sys5, Sys-V, basically the stuff that required these cryptic batch files that you needed to know old school Linux bash script to be able to write in favor of simple config files. Well, anyway, I digress, but the fact is I have to get into the weeds to that level, because no matter how fancy things are, no matter how slick the vendor software is, stuff you run on a server has to start and has to respawn if it fails. That means you're going to be dealing with stuff like System D, whether you want it or not, or someone's going to be dealing with it. That complexity needs to be dealt with, otherwise your stuff goes down and stops running. So I choose to deal with it at kind of close to the operating system level. We once used to say close to the hardware level, but even if you're doing this on Raspberry Pis in your home, you're still dealing with things at the operating system level, because Linux is Linux across all these hardware platforms. So you're not really learning the Raspberry Pi itself so much as you're learning Linux, and in a broader sense, Unix-like operating systems in general, which is a big part of my message as well for people who tune into my content. Okay, so I'm going to get into the office and get started on that exact project, but I'll do the final sort of crafting of the thoughts I've been spewing off for the past 17 minutes. I'm an SEO, search engine optimizer, in New York City. The things you need to do for SEO always evolve and change as Google itself and the other things like it that arbitrate traffic evolve and change. And in that evolving, changing, career leaping process, you can either always be losing ground and be at a disadvantage and increasingly frustrated, or you can choose the right platforms, Python, Linux, Vim, to leap on, so that you can never be obsoleted. Even if the field of SEO went away, you'd be pretty badass old school, able to do things with all kinds of systems that other people just wouldn't have a clue, because they deal at these much higher levels of, say, JavaScript libraries to do the latest neat user interface stupid browser trick. So anyway, heading in. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.